We're going to hear some great updates from Solve Innovation Future's first investees. We'll have a chance to bring those investees together to hear a little bit about what they've been working on this summer, what some of the challenges are if you are an early stage entrepreneur who's really focused on solving the world's most pressing problems. And then I'm really thrilled to have invited two of our recently selected Solver teams to join us and share their pitches as sort of a preview of some of the teams we may work with in the future. As a reminder for those folks that are somewhat new to Solve or to getting to know Solve Innovation Future, Solve Innovation Future is the philanthropic venture vehicle that is associated with MIT Solve. We are structured as a donor advised fund, so we take donations to MIT and then we deposit them with a donor advised fund sponsor, and we make recommendations for direct investments in Solver teams. We are hyper focused on aligning objectives of investors and entrepreneurs. We really want to set our entrepreneurs up for success, which means that we really work with our founders to get them the capital that is the best fit for their growth objectives. So that may mean investing as a last mile funder. It may also mean supporting teams through revenue linked agreements that help them either bridge between funding rounds or help them close funding rounds. And it also means, of course, supporting once we are investors through both funding opportunities and strategic opportunities, both in the form of leveraging the MIT and the Solve network, but certainly with direct support in terms of our expertise and our focus on impact over time. So impact is at the core of what we do. We work with incredible tech-based entrepreneurs that are solving the world's most pressing problems. And I've invited you here today to meet some of those folks and to hear a little bit about how our capital has supported them over time. So thank you so much for joining me today. And first off, I am really excited to have Luis Garza join us. Luis is co-founder and CEO of Kinidu, and I will let him share his updates.
Thank you, Casey. Now let me share my screen. So just a quick reminder for everybody who doesn't know Kinidu, we want to impact and improve the beginning of every child's story. And we work at the intersection of multiple stakeholders. We create adaptive platforms for parents and educators so that they can create a continuous and appropriate learning experiences wherever children are. We want to unlock and make available learning for children regardless if they're at school or at home, which is very pressing now during the pandemic. We basically do three things for both stakeholders. The first one is science made simple. We've worked with research partners at Stanford University in the past to develop our own initial assessment, which is not just a set of milestones, but it's really an assessment that allows us to model how development happens and return this information to parents and show them how they're doing. We also have a set of activities. These are video-based activities that allow parents to understand how they can play with their kids. It's learning through play. Every activity has a pedagogical intent, but it really fosters the relationships that parents and child and educators and children should have. And we put this two together. We've developed AI models with the help of MIT Solve to create truly adaptive and appropriate activity plans. These are not just age appropriate, but consider the stage of child development in individual milestones and skills. What we've created is an ecosystem of tools that support all these stakeholders. We have an app for parents that is used by over 800,000 parents across the world. We have an app for educators that we've recently released, and we have a product for teachers and daycare management. And all these three tools work together. And this is how we've planned our ecosystem since the beginning. And this year, we finally put together the three pieces, and we're starting to see the impact of that. Unfortunately, COVID decimated the childcare industry. Over half our customers on the productivity app closed down permanently. But the educator platform has been tweaked, and I'll show you in the second how this has worked for the different daycares. Because COVID has changed everything. Millions of children are at home. Schools are not prepared for this, and parents need a lot of help. And there's an opportunity to help children get the quality experiences they need to thrive. Remote and home-based education, early education should be good, but so far it's not. Parents are overwhelmed and overstressed. We've discovered challenges, that a few of them that you see on screen, but we think that the benefits and the potential benefits of early childhood education at home should make us wonder if we have the right structure in place. How do we make this work? Early childhood depends on learning through play environments, healthy, safe environments, quality interactions. How do we provide this through parents remotely, to parents remotely? We believe that schools and educators are still relevant. One use case that we have in Mexico is we have a network of 55 schools that is centralizing content and empowering teachers to lead an online program for parents, and parents are implementing this at home. We have a daycare that's sending teachers to families' home, either in a one-to-one setting or in a micropod setting with 6 or 7 children within the same neighborhood. These children are provided a safe environment, a lot of play experiences, and they get to know the teacher intimately. In Brazil, we're working with the government on using Kinedu to leverage the Criança Feliz program. They target over 1 million families with 40,000 home visitors during the year. And we're working with them to see how our technology can centralize content, can help them get better quality metrics and follow-ups of the visits, and help them make their home visitors more efficient, and help parents continue after the visit is over, because most of the time a home visitation session is over and nothing happens in between. Essentially, we've realized we've created something in the middle of both worlds. You have parent-led interventions like Kinedu and educator-led interventions like daycares and schools. But now, due to the pandemic, we've created an online platform that enables educator-led and implemented by parents interventions for families. How you can help? Help us grow, help us connect with other educators, daycares, and pre-Ks, and come with us and partner to do some research funding and growth funding. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Luis. That's really, it's powerful to hear how quickly you're reacting to the challenges that are facing families right now. And I'm looking forward to sort of hearing a little bit more about what those challenges look like in the Q&A and where there might be some overlap with some of our other investees. So we will see you in just a few minutes, and I'm excited in the interim to welcome Stephanie Benedetto to the stage, founder of Queen of Raw.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Benedetto, and I'm the Queen of Raw. Every single year, $120 billion worth of unused textiles just sits in warehouses collecting dust or being burned or sent to landfill. So how do we bring this waste back to life? Well, Queen of Raw's marketplace matches buyers and sellers of unused fabric, keeping it out of landfill and helping turn that pollution into profit. Holland, if you don't mind going to the next slide, please. So what's happened in the past 6 months, right? This supply chain waste matters now more than ever. The world is experiencing a crisis of supply, and why we have all these canceled orders, closed stores, huge returns, entire missed seasons and collections, right? It's impacting all of us when that Amazon order doesn't come on time. Supply chains are broken. And for every $1 worth of unsold inventory for these businesses, up to another $1.40 is spent on the warehousing costs. And so for our customers, and what we've seen in the past 6 months is massive growth. Not only does this allow our customers to make some money, right, and be able to survive today and thrive tomorrow, but it also obviously supports a strong commitment to sustainability, one that many of them are making now more than ever. So we have saved, as you can see on the map, over 1 billion gallons of water to date. That's enough clean water for 1.4 million people to drink around the world for 3 years. And the highlights on the map indicate some of the areas around the world where we fortunately are already having a massive impact and helping clean that water. And, you know, through COVID, we have now built a community of well over 235,000 users around the world and growing. We are on every continent. In Q2 compared to Q1, we've seen an 80% increase in the number of transactions across our platform and the matches between buyers and sellers. And we also have seen 40% month-over-month growth since March in our user base. So to me, obviously, that just shows that the time is now and ripe for these kinds of solutions. The demand is there, the need is there. And, you know, we're proud to have had this impact, and that organic search is our #1 driver of traffic to date. So Holland, yeah, if you don't mind switching to the next slide, please. You know, a question that we've been asking ourselves is, obviously we're known for queenofraw.com and for our marketplace to match these buyers and sellers. But how can these enterprise customers who today more than ever are feeling this pain, how can they actually measure the actions that they take across Queen of Raw to any established standards? And beyond just that, how can we not just slap a Band-Aid on this, right, and help them sell their waste, but that's it? How can we actually intelligently, over time with this data, help them minimize their waste streams going forward? And that's where we're going. So we're really excited to have been working with MIT Solve's support on an incredible, powerful suite of tools that you see here. Now we can actually tell our customers in real time things like the amount of water, the toxins, the energy, and the dollars saved by leveraging Queen of Raw. And we can map it to the United Nations SDGs, like SDG 6, clean water, right? SDG 12, responsible consumption. We've onboarded major enterprise customers to this solution, some of whom actually were introduced to us through the MIT Solve program. So it's been an incredible partnership, and we are so valuable to have that support. Would love to show you just a little bit of a 60-second video of what we've been working on with MIT Solve and where we're going. Holland, if you can go to the next.
By the time this short video is over, $1.2 million will be wasted because excess inventory is sitting stagnant or sent to landfill and supply chains are broken. We fix that. Your entire supply chain in your control. All we need is an email to add your suppliers to the chain, and they themselves can record information in seconds. Exposing your excess inventory and waste spent all in one place, all in real time, providing actionable data resulting in over 15% cost savings annually. Not only do we save you money, we make you money. Your excess inventory is sold with a click of a button in our global marketplace because we turn your pollution into profit.
Holland, you can just jump to the next slide. Yeah, and just to close, I wanted to give up something as an offering, right? They've done so much for us. Here is an initiative called the New York Circular City Initiative that we're a part of. It's launching tomorrow in New York. And I welcome all of you, if you're interested in being a part of this going forward, feel free to reach out to me or look at circularnyc.org, and together we will change the world. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And I love the video. That was very smooth. So
thank you
for adding that in. And once again, I think what's pretty interesting too is how globally the work has, how quickly you've had a global reach, and thinking about both the combination of the global reach and the enterprise move. Again, a lot of overlap with what Luis was talking about. So from an impact perspective, I'm really curious to dig into some of those questions about what does it mean to scale when you are so focused on impact. So looking forward to digging in there a little bit more. But before we get to our Q&A, we're actually have a taped recording from our third investee from last spring, Melissa, the CEO of Access Afia. So we will hear from Melissa, who very kindly sent along a taped recording because it is very early in the morning in Kenya, where she lives. And so we will hear a quick update from Melissa, and then we will have a Q&A with Stephanie and Luis. So thanks so much.
I'm the founder of Access Afia, calling in from Nairobi, Kenya. We've had a very busy last 6 months. We completed our first acquisition of 5 primary healthcare franchise clinics. The first site that we worked deeply with, we helped to turn around from seeing 10 patients a day and losing money to doubling its volume and earning a profit within the first 4 months we supported them. We're currently focusing on standardizing the things that we've learned from that experience to the other 4 franchise clinics that we now are the service provider to. We found great new franchise partners who have experience building franchise businesses in the exact markets that we're trying to serve. We're looking at finding ways to collaborate with them more deeply, including building a financing facility for future Access Afia franchisees. The second big focus we've had is on our virtual clinic, which is called M-Daktari. This was launched in an effort to help our patients follow social distancing guidelines, yet not miss out on accessing essential healthcare services. A few months ago, we received one of Kenya's first virtual clinic licenses from the Kenyan Ministry of Health, are running a small pilot with our antenatal care patients, and are learning a lot about their needs and their feature requests, which is helping us adapt our roadmap and continue to aim to build the most accessible virtual care platform in East Africa. We've also landed a few key partnerships in the last few months. We launched a DFID-funded solar energy project with Strauss Energy, which is getting panels on 5 of our clinics and helping us measure the increase in consistency of service and reduction in costs that renewable energy can bring clinics like ours. A second exciting partnership is with the IFC's Tech Emerge program and Butterfly, which is helping us to install point-of-care digital lightweight ultrasounds at all of our clinics, supported by one central sonographer using a teleguidance software. This is helping us ensure that the affordability of these services continues to go down, continues to increase for our patients, while at the same time, we have committed to giving free lung ultrasounds to all of our respiratory patients this month and offering them for just $1 thereafter. This is ensuring that we continue to contribute to the growing database of knowledge and images around lung ultrasounds and COVID-19. The next few months and the closing out this year, we're really focused on doubling down on these new service lines. We're improving and standardizing our franchise package for our entrepreneurs. We're increasing the usage of our virtual clinic. And finally, we are looking for new partners to help integrate with our virtual clinic, other complementary digital health providers that we can refer to or that can refer into us. We hope that we can give you another update in a few months because we have big plans we're formulating for 2021 and can't wait to share. Thank you.
Melissa with the cliffhanger about what's coming in the future. So we are really hopeful next time we will schedule this at a little bit more of a convenient time for Melissa, because I think what the work that they're doing is really important and obviously has a huge impact on lives and helping folks live healthier, more connected lives. So looking forward to digging into that in the future. But for now, I would love to bring Luis and Stephanie back to the stage for a quick question and answer period where we talk just a little bit about the work that they've been doing over the summer and certainly since our investment in May, and where the field might be going. I think one of the questions that comes to mind for me, and it actually resonates with Melissa was talking about, is scale, right? And I think it's been really fun to watch you both this summer in particular think about your scale and what it means for your businesses. And you've both launched relatively new products in the last 6 months that are really focused on scale, whether it's enterprise, big, fast fashion production houses, or if it's an LMS platform that can really run the back end of some of the daycare work. That's a pretty interesting choice. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about how you're thinking about that enterprise level impact and how it plays into whether it's sort of the direct impact that you're looking to have either on whether it's whatever the appropriate impact metric is for you. So Stephanie, obviously it's not necessarily directly to people, but you're thinking about that and how you sort of balance impact and enterprise thinking.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something we think about a lot. What at the core of what we do, right? We track it against water, toxins, and energy saved, but that obviously has lives that are impacted by the clean water and less toxins. Right. When it comes to scale and growth, you hit a point where I think we realized that if we can change even just 1% of the way these massive organizations do business, the amount of impact that we can have around the world, it's just, staggering. And so we've always thought about our solution as wanting to support the bottom up and the top down. And the beauty of technology and platforms like this is you can do that. You can bring these communities together and work on a smaller scale and also scale very quickly to the larger scale. And so for us, I think looking at the enterprise side of what we're doing, not just, as I mentioned, slap that Band-Aid on and try to, solve the problem quickly, but figure out long-term, what does the future look like, right? What does the future supply chain look like? And how can we empower and build for that? And I I think we can probably all agree that it is, you know, and what we're all doing, it's one that is more on demand, more local, more sustainable. And how can we power and support that? But of course, without forgetting the consumer end of what we do. And that's why in the future, just as a little teaser, where we're going with the platform we've been working on is how can you connect that to the QR code or RFID thread in the finished good and continue the story down the chain so the end customer knows the impact in the water and the lives they've saved by the choices they make. So
yeah, super interesting. Luis, I don't know if you have comments directly on that, but I think you're also looking at stickiness, right? You're looking at the ecosystem that supports kids. I'm happy to have you answer the previous question, but it makes me think specifically, I'd be curious how you're changing the way you structure your team and the types of folks that you hire, really, to be thinking about how do we support the ecosystem that supports the child more broadly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we need a bigger team just in many things that we do. Tech, there's a lot of also scale advantages. Like you don't need to double the team size. You need to be smart about how do you work. Well, there's one thing that we don't know yet how to do. So we have this hypothesis that parents and educators are living in the same place when it comes to understanding what to do with their kids. Everybody was thrown into the last 6 months, threw everybody into the same pit. We don't know what to do with kids. I have twins that are 4-year-old and 2-year-old. I have Kinedo and I've been using it, which is great. But there are tons of people that were just surprised and thrown into that. So our hypothesis is that these parents, which we've found traditionally through Facebook and Instagram, behave similar to teachers and educators. And you mentioned something about scale and enterprise. We don't mind if somebody like Bright Horizons hires us. We have the largest school network in Mexico using Kinedo educators for their preschools. That's great. We add a lot of value. We give them an online platform. But we are made for the educator that's just starting, the educator that has no help, the educator that runs a 6 to 8 child program in their center. That's what we're here for, because we want to support them to figure out what to do with the kids in their group, how to talk to parents, how to connect with parents. And in that sense, they live in the same places. They live on Facebook, they live on Pinterest, they live on Teachers Pay Teachers, for example. And that's what we're thinking about. There is something to be said about customer support and how parents are less intense in customer support, but educators will probably need to handhold them a little bit more and figure out how we can do that and scale that through tech improvements.
Yeah. How do you think about balancing that question, though, of we care about the educator, but that may slow your growth from just if you're looking at really traditional tech investing metrics, right? If you're looking at users or eyeballs, how do you think about balancing that, the speed with which you grow and sort of serving that hardest to serve or sort of most important to serve?
That is a great question that we see every quarter in our board meetings. I mean, there's a roadmap, there's a master plan to how we want to build Kinedo, and we have to make progress towards that. And if we're able to think not in the next 3 or 6 months and what we need to show in 3 months, we should be able to think long-term and build it. There's a challenge that we have a more mature B2C product that should be able to scale, and we're learning how to build this B2B2C model. But we're seeing significant traction. Like it just started with 8,000 students in Latin America, and the schools are now asking if they can take the online program and we can help them generate leads. And it starts with a lot of inertia, and that's what we want to leverage and think how to scale, but always thinking about the 3 to 5 year master plan that we have.
Yeah, it's interesting. And Stephanie, you're really doing something very similar. To have Melissa mention B2B2C, to have you mention B2B2C, Stephanie, similarly, you're working on a really specific, it's a very specific business model, I think, over time. What's the friction, to your point on inertia, what's the inverse of that? Stephanie, what's the friction from being able to really get that inertia going? How do you start that rock spinning?
You know, for us, the way we originally started the platform was B2C, because we thought we kept our platform. Our marketplace is open. It's free to join. It's free to list. We just get a great commission per sale. And we did that intentionally because we wanted to bring the volume, bring the masses, build the community, and start to learn from them. Learn what our customers and our community need and what they want. From that is where we saw the challenges and the pain points that we had. And that was specifically on the enterprise side. How they had such a massive amount of volume. They want to participate with us. But when you're a big enterprise corporation in an old school way of doing business, you have old processes that need to be brought up to date in order to be leverage modern technology solutions. That's where we spend a lot of time with what we're working on with MIT Solve, but also with other partnerships like with SAP. We can actually now integrate directly into their systems to pull all the information in and then start the matchmaking and grow from there. And I think doing that has enabled or moved that B2B2C model to help us really scale and keep the flow from the bottom, from the top through to the bottom. And, obviously to us, that serves our bold mission. We want to solve the world's water crisis and waste crisis. And, we're not stopping until we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thinking about that, sort of, you have to be relevant, right? Your hook is being relevant to consumers and then sort of moving upstream. Similarly, Luis, there was a question in the chat about relevance to consumer on your end. How do you develop educational content that's fresh and meaningful while also making sure that it's evidence-based over time? How do you make sure that hook works?
That's a great question. And it's interesting. I sometimes think of our business model, particularly the consumer model, sort of the inverse of Netflix, where Netflix has a certain amount of users and they have to refresh content so they don't get bored. Our users come in and out. The children go from 0 to 4 years of age, and then the relevancy of Kinedu stops. But what we're seeing is that the activities that we recorded and filmed in 2014 and 15 are still as popular today as they were before. And so that says something about the type of content that we're putting out. It's content that's timeless in many ways. There's another part to this, however, is how do we adapt content that is intended for a parent now to an educator setting? And so we've worked on the front end of that. We worked on text tips, and we worked on the educator platform has a very different look and feel. It's the same video though, because what you're showing is how should an adult interact with a child? And in that sense, that's what we're providing to educators. There's a third part to this, which is now we're also enabling educators who have their own curriculum and their own content to upload into the platform, use it in Kinedu for educators, and leverage our AI to make sure it's developmentally appropriate for their group. And that's the core of our research. Our research is not necessarily on, is this activity valid? Does this activity develop this skill? A lot of our psychologists internally were teachers. I worked in childcare before. We sort of know how to plan a lesson plan. How to make sure our milestone model is actually reflective of how children develop. And how does that translate internationally? Our number 1 or 2 markets are the US and Brazil. And you'd think there might be similar, but in Brazil, for example, they don't have certain phonemes that in the US you have. So you change everything and the development changes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And recognizing we only have 2 minutes left of this Q&A, I don't know how it went by so fast. I was just gonna end with a question actually that we've been kind of noodling over, and Stephanie, I know we were noodling over it together, but Luis, if you're successful in keeping that content fresh and in growing both the educators and the B2C work, can you do kind of traditional flavor, can you do, what happens to your solution? Do you scale and get out? Do you solve the achievement gap? What happens? What does success look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I can visualize it in many ways, but just as Duolingo is a very well-known app for language, we see ourselves sort of as that sort of thing for early childhood. The thing about Kinedu is that it's simple, it's low cost, and it's accessible. So we want to become a platform that transforms parents and educators into high-quality educators. Whether you're a parent at home with a 6-month-old, that you can support their development without any calls as a high quality educator would do. If you're an educator with 3-year-old children in your classrooms, then you can provide the right experiences wherever you are. So we want to unlock and transform learning past the brick and mortars where it may be trapped right now.
Yeah. And similarly, Stephanie, let's close it out. I'd love to have you answer the same question. What does success look like, and what happens to Queen of Raw when you solve the water crisis?
I always say that should be our worst problem, is that, we write ourselves out of a marketplace, because at the end of the day, that means we have all supply chains on our software and tools. We will have solved the world's water crisis. We'll be building Alibaba done right, and then we can go on to the next challenge. But, it will take us a while to get there. We focused on textiles because it has massive impact, but it isn't just fashion. textiles touch all of us everywhere in the world: automotive, aviation, computer electronics. How can we look at those businesses, not just as platforms for buying and selling these textiles, but to look at the waste they produce and be able to identify it, monetize it, and minimize it across categories? So that's where we're going.
Well, I'm so grateful for you guys, to you both, for joining us. I think what I would share with this group more broadly is I continue to be so impressed with the way that both Stephanie and Luis are looking at essentially the stressors that are facing us at this moment as a society, as an opportunity to really test some new models and to accelerate the adaptation of some of their technological platforms in new ways, but doing that in a really thoughtful way that will set them up for growth in the long run. So I've been really impressed by the thinking that's happened this summer and a lot of the testing that's going on, and happy to follow up with anyone that's on the line or is curious about being connected with these guys, because I think not only are you both being really smart about your business models and how you can actually set up sustainable, impactful businesses, but how you can really keep impact at the core of what you do while you build those businesses. And so really kudos to you guys for continuing to, frankly, test and fail and grow, because it's been really fun to be on that journey with you. And I'm very excited to see where your businesses go in the next kind of 6 or 12 months.
Thank you. Thank you for all the support.
For joining us. Great. All right. So we will let Stephanie and Luis go for the moment. And fun for us, we get to transition into meeting some of our new Solver teams. So as folks on the line know, yesterday was Solve Challenge Finals, our premier pitch event. We selected 35 Solver teams from a pool of 2,600 solutions that were submitted to the Solve team last June, so I guess that's summer. And we've invited 2 of the teams to join us today to share a little bit about their solutions. These are teams that may be raising in the next 6 to 12 months, may be a good fit for Solve Innovation Future. We can't wait to learn more, and we're really, really excited to welcome both Tayo and Yehuda to the stage today to talk a little bit about their solutions. So Tayo, I'm really grateful that you were able to hop on the phone so quickly. We gave you approximately 12 hours notice, but would love to hear a little bit more about what you're working on.
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to go straight into it. Okay, thank you so much, guys, for having me. My name is Tayo. I am a technology education entrepreneur. I'm the chief executive of Utiva. I spent 6 years working in the international development space, special interest education in the United States and in the UK. And I built multiple products in the education technology space. But let me share my story with you. Some years back, when I graduated from the university, I was unemployed for 2 years. I couldn't pay for a learning program to upskill myself. That was the point that I realized that there are 2 major costs that I have to pretty much focus on. The first one is the cost of learning, and the second one is the cost of completing the learning program. The most terrifying cost for a young person is the cost of internet. About 85% of those that drop off online learning programs, they do so in Africa because of internet-related problems. Access is still a major problem in Africa. And that was the reason I started Utiva. Our mission is to help Africans from low-income backgrounds to access quality technology education as a tool and medium for getting out of poverty. This is one of the things I want you to think about. Last year, 2019, 3.3 million entry-level jobs were unfilled. Yet, Africa has an unemployment rate that is as high as 34%. So 3.3 million people could have gotten new jobs. 3.3 million lives could have been transformed. 3.3 million families could have been gotten out of poverty. So we built a product called the Nucleus. The Nucleus is an encrypted device with more than 40 well-structured, pre-installed learning content, so that with less reliance on the internet, you can focus on studying. So Africans now can learn premium technology skills without ever getting bothered about internet. So think about it. While I'm pitching right now, my internet can pretty much just mess up. And it might take me 2 hours to get reconnected. And that is the major problem with learning. So the device has 4 different layers of security. The training content are structured and well organized in folders, and each folder has a unique passkey that is identifiable with each device. The first version of the device had about 300 gig in terms of the space. So how does this work in reality? Users pay for the device to get it within 24 hours. When you're ready, you do a 3-minute installation on your mobile phone or your laptop. Then you plug the device and you use the passkey and start to learn. Within 1 year, we built 7 digital schools, from data to product to AI to design to cybersecurity. We established a market presence in 9 cities. We got into Facebook Accelerators program, scaled to another 20. Yesterday, we got into the MIT program, and the vision for us is to leverage the MIT network and relationship and funds to scale to another 10 different cities. We have trained 5,000 young people. We have achieved 65% transition rate into new jobs. We have a very large network of trainers, up to 200 young people. The good thing is that with just $80, a young person from any location can get the device and start learning. We are unique and competitive because we have figured out the distribution model, the technology that encrypts the device, and the beautiful part is that the content is African. So learners can easily relate with what they're learning. We currently have a team of about 30 people, led by myself. I have a master's in business strategy. My partner, who is a 2-time entrepreneur, an AI and a data engineer. I have another colleague who has 5 years experience working in educational programming, and someone on our team who is the lead of the marketing, who has 4 years experience in B2C. Last year, we did a revenue of $128,000. This year, we are on track to finishing the year with $450,000. We got lucky again this year. The government partnered with us to train 10,000 people. They have paid for 2,000, and we are quite optimistic that the government is not going to change their mind, so that by the end of 2022, we can finish with 50,000 people trained. With access to funding, we intend to scale across the entire African country. Let me leave you with this. Lagos is not Nigeria. Nigeria is not Africa. Our goal is to get this device across 55 African countries and get younger people to access new jobs by learning premium technology skills. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name again is Tayo.
Tayo, thank you. I loved it with the revenue projection slide is the one that we end on, because I can't wait to hear a little bit more about what that growth looks like, and particularly to dig in a little bit about what it's like to work with government, because our current investees aren't necessarily directly engaging with government. So looking forward to a Q&A in just a few minutes to hear a bit more about what you're doing. In the interim, we're going to introduce Yehuda from Exit, and really excited to hear what he's going to share with the group, and then we'll bring everyone back together. So thank you again for joining us, Tayo. Yehuda, you are on. Thank you so much.
Hello, good evening. Okay, hi from Israel. It's midnight here. Thank you for listening to me. I'm a grandson of Israeli egg farmers, and I'm here today to show you some magic, and by the way, a $300 billion opportunity. So, sorry. There are 2 kinds of chickens in the world. There's the fast-growing broilers and the slow-growing layers. If you are a layer, you are too skinny to be worthwhile for the poultry industry. And if you are a male layer, you also do not lay eggs, obviously. So you are useless to the industry. And therefore, every year we kill 8 billion male chicks because nobody wants to feed them. Exit makes it possible to count your chickens before they hatch by enabling the detection of sex of what's inside the egg pre-incubation. This is my co-founder, Professor Danny Ofen of Tel Aviv University, and he is now demonstrating the use of Sexit, our device, which is capable of detecting the sex through the eggshell at the speed of light pre-incubation at day 0 as the egg is laid. And then we have Sexit, which is our device, which acts as a gatekeeper at the entry point of the hatchery and actually looks inside the eggs and moves away the males and enables only the females inside. Those females will turn out to female chicks. The males can be sold and repurposed to other industries that buy eggs, such as the pharma, cosmetics, blue tannery industries. It's a real game changer, and at the end of the day, it will enable the sale of these male culling-free ethical eggs. So we're proud to and honored to be part of the MIT Solve network, and it's coming at a great time for us because in a few weeks we will be launching a round, and I'm sure that with the backwind we will get from the community, we will be very successful. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yehuda, for joining us so late. My bedtime is approximately 9 p.m. on a good night, so I'm very grateful that you were able to stay up and join us today. And I'm ready to welcome Tayo back to the stage because I think we have a lot to learn about both of your models, and I think given where you are, it'll be really interesting to see, kind of compare a little bit about where are our current investees and what are their challenges versus where you all are as you begin this journey with Solve. So to start with, I'd love to know a little bit more just about why and how you found Solve, and then we can get into a little bit more sort of about the applications of your solution. So maybe we'll start with Yehuda, we'll go back to you and then come back to Tayo just about how you found Solve and what would success look like for you in the next kind of 9 months.
Sure. So one of our team members is constantly scanning the landscape to figure out which opportunities are out there. We, as a company, I believe in serendipity. So looking proactively for the opportunities and hoping for the best. Actually, that's the founding story of our company. I was a lawyer, a partner in a law firm for 20 years, and Professor Danny Off at Tel Aviv University was a client of mine. After the TTO of Tel Aviv University decided that an invention that is coming from a neuroscientist in the field of poultry is irrelevant for them to commercialize, he came to me with this, and I became so excited, so I decided to leave my profession and start the company together with Danny. So it's really a foundation of my professional life in this stage of my career. And therefore, I realized that only through networks and random or less random meetings with people, we can make this happen. And some people less believe in it, some more. We're using CRISPR, which is an amazing gene editing technology, which came out of MIT actually.
Yeah.
Our head of research just came back after 9 years as a postdoc at the Whitehead Institute from MIT. It was only natural for us to reconnect with MIT through a different angle and to make this happen.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that it's really, I love seeing the sort of cycle or the story that some of the CRISPR work can feed into some of the social entrepreneur work and vice versa. And so hopefully we can keep that virtuous cycle going. Tayo, I want to hear a little bit from you because I've got follow-up for both of you on the actual work, but I do think it's really interesting to hear a little bit about why you're excited about Solve and sort of how you found us.
Yeah, sure. So at the beginning of the year, I was a part of an incubators program in the US. Mm-hmm. So I was in DC between January to I think that was June, and COVID happened. So the incubators program that I was a part of, called Alcyon in Washington, D.C., provided me with this safe zone. And as part of the culture is, sharing opportunities among, the fellows, and, they had shared the Solve MIT program, with us as a very strategic opportunity, to build a relationship, access to funding and that. So I reviewed the opportunity with my team, and it was quite fascinating. I remember that my application was about 10 different pages, and I was almost giving up, but I had my
Don't make
eyes
it
on the
easy
goal.
for you.
It was pretty much very difficult. And they spent weeks writing and editing, and I still made mistakes. But I submitted, and I was quite very positive that it was going to come out good. So here we are. So speaking in terms of like what we're looking to achieve, access to relationship is very important to us. One of the things that we have realized in the education space is that the mortality rate of companies and organizations, especially when the businesses are coming from Africa, is quite very high. So we wanted to access relationship to help us navigate the barrier. Relationship, access to mentoring, globalize our advisory, then rebuild our technology. So we wanted like a lot of help, and that's one of the reasons we're in this program. Yeah.
And tell me a little bit more from a technology perspective. What's the challenge for you that you really feel like you have to wrap your arms around before you can scale to the effect that you would want to? Is it really just around user adoption, or is there something around sort of the hardware and the software that makes scale really challenging?
So in terms of scale for us, we don't even think it's the technology. We think it's the employer side of things. We want employers, especially employers locally and employers internationally, to believe in the talents that we are building. So we're spending more time helping the talents that we're building to navigate through not just the learning, but being able to work on multiple businesses or multiple business cases as a way to prove their capacity. One of the things I have seen, and I'll give you an example of a young lady, Susan, that got a job in the US. She currently lives in one of the remote, villages in Nigeria, learned a technology skill, product design, then currently designs for a technology company in the US. So it's more than just the skill. It's the opportunity to show what you're capable of. And that's one of the things that we want to focus so much on. We have been able to successfully help, people to navigate the barrier to learning, which is the internet. But the biggest value is being able to showcase the talent. So we built, an hands-on that is called the Veteranship. Veteranship is an opportunity for you to work on multiple projects within 3 months as a way to help you, showcase what you're capable of doing. And right now we have employers, looking at the work that you're doing as a model for hiring. And that's like, that for us is the pendulum for scale. That's pretty much the way we think about that, yeah.
And so from your client perspective, you're really working on both sides, right? You're trying to attract on both sides of the platform, which Correct. I imagine is pretty challenging. Yehuda, from your side of the house and the client perspective, do you think that you can really focus just on, are you really focused just on the sort of poultry production side of the house, or do you also need to have two sides, sort of buyers and sellers, to use the technology and scale?
So for us, we happen to be in an amazing industry from the point of view of scale, because the nature of genetics, that it all begins with one, and then it goes and trickles down to the base of the pyramid. So that's what genetics is all about. So actually we need to change the genetics of one chicken only, and then in 2.5 years, all the chickens in the world can carry this sex detectable trait.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But more interesting, which
that's faster than like people getting thumbs. That's a faster cycle there.
Correct. But to add to that, the crazy nature of the genetics industry in livestock, and especially in poultry, that there are 2 global players only. So you only need to partner with 2 players, and then all the chickens in the world can be changed and edited in a way to carry this extra trait. So that's from the genetic perspective. Then from the Sextet, our device perspective, it meets hatcheries. That these are the customers of this technology. So not to go into too much details of how we bundle it, but at the end of the day, again, there are many hatcheries in the world. But this industry is getting more and more consolidated and vertically integrated. So there are huge hatcheries that deal with millions of eggs, and that machine there can do the work. We're working on different models and different sizes of machines to meet different capacities, but again, it's doable. And then at the end of the chain, there's the consumer and this mock-up of these sex detectable, ethical eggs, which at the end of the day will reach the supermarkets. But again, that all goes through the genetics and partnerships with the branding companies in the egg space, or with supermarkets and retailers who will actually sell these eggs. So that's our customer base.
Super interesting, and allows you to avoid government, which, Tayo, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you are thinking about partnering with government, recognizing that I think if I were to read between the lines, you were implying that there may be some fickle behavior on behalf of the government. So curious about how you're thinking about that.
Yeah, so one of the things with education is that it's quite very multi-directional. So with this same product can be used in the primary education, secondary education, tertiary universities, and also post-secondary school. You know, I mean, the product that we've built is something that can be used across board. So when so there are two different governments that we're working with. The first government is a state government that wanted to train about 10,000 persons. So they paid for 2,000 and they wanted us to start immediately, but we're not even ready, you know. And so they thought that the fastest way to get us, you know, on board is to incentivize that. So they paid for 2,000. And this weekend, we're kickstarting the training. We've deployed the device to about 1,000 young persons, and they're starting the training. And one of the things I'm starting to see is that the government has a capacity to implement a lot, to change a lot if the government wants to. So we are also trying to become closer to the government, you know, communicate the value that we're offering to the government, and the government can see, you know, ultimately what can shift if they also become a part of the journey. The federal government, interestingly, wants us to become the only partner that provides premium technology skill training to every graduate. Interestingly, the federal government had not made any form of commitment, but they made an announcement on their social media platform. And that's also interesting because now we're beginning to see how interesting the government can be when it comes to like striking a balance between politicizing things and trying to do the real work. So we want to be between the two ends of the spectrum, you know, give the government the prize that they want, but ultimately being able to serve, you know, the community that we represent, which is a recent graduate that want to learn the skills. So it's a new dynamic for us. We're learning as we're moving on. But financially, it makes a lot of brilliant sense because the government can wake up and pay for 10,000 people overnight. In terms of scale, it also makes a lot of sense, but it's quite very difficult because the government is a tough, you know, institution to pursue.
Yeah. Super interesting. I'm also just noticing, this is completely off topic, but I love your t-shirt, and I'm also noticing the chickens behind you, Huda. You both came with your A game this afternoon, so I really appreciate that. That makes good sense of how you're trying to thread that needle, and I'm pretty curious to see how that evolves over time, especially given some of the pieces we were talking about with Luis and with Knidu around the way that COVID has changed the way that we interact with each other, and certainly the way that we interact with learning systems over time. And we only have a few minutes left, so I think I'd love to end with the same question actually that I posed to our current investees, to hear a little bit about what does success look like, and what happens to your model if you're successful in tackling some of the impact questions that you've set out to sort of address over time. And happy to start. Maybe we'll start with you, Huda, and then we'll end with Tayo.
Sure. So we are at a growth stage of our company. We have validated our technology. We have validated what we needed to validate with markets. And we are now moving from making this happen in a lab setup into a commercial setup. The next 2 years, which will be the reason we will raise money in our very near approaching round, is we're moving into a new facility which is GMP graded. We are hiring more and more people in order to to scale it up to production. We are also moving into a new space of gene editing for virus resistance. So it's not only, I mean, we started about this issue because of a random story my co-founder heard of, but then we realized that we don't want to have only one egg in our basket. So we are also doing more in the space of gene editing in poultry, and who knows, in the future moving to other species as well. And we're also moving our device from prototype level to commercial level and field pilots. So there's a lot going on in the company, and a lot of capital needed in order to play.
Yeah, I'm so glad you touched on that around the applications to some of the other applications of the technology, because that was actually something I noted in both of your conversations of how else can this technology be applied as you look to scale. So good teaser of what's to come. Teo, I'd love to hear you just sort of talk a little bit about what success looks like, and then we'll wrap up our investor showcase.
Yeah, so success for us is pretty much very clear right now, unless anything happens in the future. I mean, the problem we're trying to solve is quite very big. By 2030, in the next 10 years, Africa is going to have about 600 million young persons, and that's bigger than China, ready to work in the job market. Our vision, is to take this device to all the African countries, 55 countries. That's the target that we have. That would mean that we have to recreate some of the content, because we have 24 francophone countries. So we have to translate the content into, French. We have content in English. The interesting thing with digital skill is that the lifespan of a digital skill is like 2 years. So today we are so much around data, AI, product design, cybersecurity. Maybe in the next 3 years, it's going to be like new skills or new stocks that we need to launch and start to redevelop people. Now, one of the interesting things we've also started seeing is that, other organizations that are also offering learning are pretty much thinking of using our encryption, to achieve the same thing. So we also see that as an opportunity. So we can also provide encryption as a service, to every other learning institution or learning organization that wants to provide, digital skill training or whatever type of education. Yeah, those are the things that we're playing with, and we're quite optimistic that the future is beautiful.
Love it. What a perfect place to end, because I feel really optimistic after meeting with you guys. It's nice to take a step back and see some really new ideas that I think can really drive impact in the short and the long term, really can help solve some of the world's most pressing problems, which is why we're here. So really grateful to you both for joining us today. I think I'd love to end with a call to action, both for our teams that joined us today. Again, if you're interested in meeting these guys or meeting Stephanie or Luis or Melissa, please do reach out. We also are always looking for partners and friends of Solve Innovation Future. So if you're curious about the work that we're doing, if you're interested in donating, or if you're interested in learning more about the way that we think about the world and catalyzing DAF capital and driving more capital towards solver teams, we're always happy to meet and to get together. So thank you again for making the time to get to know us and to get to know some of our investees and our solver teams, and really looking forward to continuing the conversation. Have a wonderful evening, and congratulations to both the investees and to the new solver teams. Thanks so much.